Have you heard the good news? The island's chief medical officer has declared the dengue outbreak over. That's right, for the past 4 consecutive months of 2020, the number of dengue cases reported were below the epidemic threshold. In March, there were 37 dengue cases, 2 in April, 8 in May, and 2 in June. Despite this good news, we must all remain vigilant in our fight to eradicate mosquito breeding sites in and around our homes and communities. Jamaica Magazine continues right after this break.
What if they knew that you abused her? Her family?
Mr. Jones.
And your colleagues, how will they look at an abuser? When the law comes knocking, you'll have nowhere to run.
Mr. Brown, you're under arrest. Please get up, hands behind your head and interlock your fingers.
Turn your back on abusers. Report gender-based violence to the police. There's no excuse for abuse. Call the Bureau of Gender Affairs at 876-754-8577.
Good day, I'm Stephen McHugh, and this is your JIS News for Monday, July 20. More than 2,000 persons will be deployed to monitor daycare centers and entertainment events and venues' compliance with the COVID-19 protocols that guide their conditional reopening. It was recently announced that daycare centers, along with water attractions, amusement parks, and a range of small outdoor events, are being allowed to resume operations for an initial period of July 21 to 31. But Minister of Local Government and Community Development Desmond McKenzie is reiterating this is strictly contingent on them abiding by the reopening protocols.
Observing the limitations that we place on the number of persons that can be in a venue at any one given time, observing the protocols in terms of the health aspect of it, which is going to be very, very important.
Minister McKenzie says the 2,000 plus community activists will be doing more than just monitoring these establishments and events.
They are going to be making recommendations, and they are going to be a part of that wide core of community-driven activists, if you want to use that word, that will be out there passing on the information that is going to be required.
The local government minister was speaking at the Ministry of Health's recent virtual COVID conversations press briefing. Minister of Health and Wellness Dr. Christopher Tufton has announced that government plans to employ a substantial number of junior doctors who are currently facing challenges in securing jobs in the public health system. This comes after consultations with the Jamaica Medical Doctors Association, JMDA, which has reported that just over 100 junior doctors have been unable to secure employment in the public system. Dr. Tufton says the Ministry of Finance and the Public Service has given the go-ahead for the Health Ministry to make additional spaces available where there is a need.
I'm not going to promise 100 plus, but certainly substantial enough to fill some of the gaps that exist, and of course to put some of your members to work in badly needed areas.
He made the announcement during the Health Ministry's most recent weekly virtual COVID Conversations press briefing. During the briefing, Dr. Tufton also assured the Jamaica Medical Doctors Association that his ministry was committed to finding a long-term solution to the challenges being faced by the junior doctors.
Just to note that the longer-term strategy, of course, is revising the entire structure, as we discussed in that meeting, and the CMO has committed before the end of this year to present to your association the new plan for capacity building, and I think that will pave a way for a longer-term, more permanent arrangement.
Tourism Minister Edmund Bartlett has warned that tourism entities that fail to comply with health and safety protocols will be ordered closed. To facilitate the phased reopening of the sector amid COVID-19, the government has established a number of health and safety protocols which must be met by tourism operators prior to opening. Minister Bartlett is asserting that if operators are not COVID-19 compliant, the government is going to shut down their establishments, whether they are big or small. He made the statements on the weekend during a tour of the newly opened South Coast Resilience Corridor. The new corridor was introduced on July 15 and comes after the North Coast Resilience Corridor was introduced in June. As of today, importers applying for permits from the Trade Board Limited must go through the Jamaica Single Window for Trade J-SWIFT facility. J-SWIFT is an electronic platform providing traders and their representatives with fully automated access to the State Border Regulatory Agency's BRAs. This latest move is part of the phased digitization of these state border regulatory agencies. The new arrangement accommodates traders importing commodities such as motor vehicles, white refined sugar for manufacturing or the retail market, bulk cement, milk powder and machinery, among other commodities. The Jamaica Customs Agency is the lead implementing entity of the Jamaica Single Window for Trade. The National Water Commission (NWC) has announced adjustments to its supply times to customers served by the Mona treatment plant, as the worsening drought conditions causes source inflows to continuously decline. As at Friday, July 18, the NWC says the Mona Reservoir was at 38.2% of its capacity, and as a result, the daily water supply time has been reduced from 16 to 12 hours. Some customers are likely to experience low pressures and/or no water during the period of restriction, which is from 6 p.m. each evening to 5 a.m. the next morning. Pointing out that the current dry period is now spanning 7 months, the NWC says this new adjustment is necessary to maintain supply at an acceptable level, while at the same time being mindful of its role in the fight against the spread of COVID-19. As the nation goes through this challenging period, the NWC is imploring everyone to adhere to the prohibition order and make conservation a habit instead of the exception. And finally, for the first time in history, the winners of the 2020 Jamaica Gospel Song and Festival Song competitions will be selected by public vote. This has come about due to restrictions presented by the COVID-19 pandemic. This year's top 10 finalists for both competitions have already been released and are currently circulating on local and diaspora airwaves ahead of the grand finals. During her recent sectoral presentation in Parliament, Culture Minister Olivia Grange revealed that numbers to call or text in your vote are displayed on various media platforms.
The songs are on social media streaming and download platforms, they're on radio and they're on television. We have released the telephone lines for members of the public to vote for their favorites.
The minister is urging the public to listen to the songs and vote for their favorites. And that's it for JIS News Today. I'm Stephen McHugh. Thanks for watching.
While the country continues to experience a prolonged dry spell, we urge you to practice your water conservation measures. Even as you do so, the government has been making headways into providing potable water to citizens. The state, through the Rural Water Supply Limited, will be spending an additional $528 million on water infrastructure projects to assist 45,000 persons. Let's see one of the company's water projects in Clarendon.
You see, sir, no water. This is what I've got to put up with.
We have responded in a way to try to get water to communities. While these solutions are not the answer to the problems, but at least we are making an attempt to get water.
This water shop ground was broken in 2016, and it actually was brought into operation November 16, 2017. This water shop presently serves approximately 60 people per week and dispense about 8,000 gallons of water on a weekly basis.
The Pennant's Water Shop is the first such facility to be established in the country. More than 3 years later, the Ministry of Local Government and Community Development has commissioned into service over 7 water shops across the island. Parishes such as St. Elizabeth, Clarendon, Manchester and Portland are happy to have unlimited access to potable water. These water shops have quenched the thirsts of many residents who do not have the precious commodity flowing through their taps.
And we provide this water free of cost.
Well, I've got 2 tanks. I don't drink the tank water. My husband, sometimes we went on the road to get water, but since this water is here, we fetch the water from here for drinking. That's how we get water.
Penance is one of these rural communities, largely farming, with a population of over 3,000 people. There are a lot of people here, of course, and one of the challenges we have is lack of running water. The district is not adequately served by any water system. There was once upon a time that water came from the northern side of the parish, but because of the increase in population, we get water here just every now and again, a little trickle. It's really rainwater that suffices the citizens, and the river. There's a river nearby that they also use for washing and other purposes.
I appreciate it that the water shop is here. We can come and catch water when we want, drink water.
So at this point in time, I think that this is probably the only reliable source of potable water for the citizens of Penance and the surrounding communities. It's Cougar River, Prospect, Main Ridge, Mullet Hall, Dank Savoy, Summerfield, Beckford Crawl, Iron Gate, Blackwoods. In fact, almost all the communities surrounding Penance, we have residents using this water shop. This water is bought from the NWC system. It's treated water, and then when it comes here, it's again treated. So it's chlorinated from the NWC system, and then it is filtered here. So what you have is proper drinking water being dispensed at this facility.
Tastes good because you cannot taste no chlorine in it. It's just crystal clear and drink very light.
I drink this water and I don't put it on the fridge. I just catch it, put it down, and I just drink when I want water to drink. It tastes good.
Most people really appreciate the services being offered here. Of course, they will also tell you that they would prefer for the water to be come directly to their homes, and they are willing to pay for it. So this water shop really wasn't intended to be the end in itself. The long-term plan, of course, is to have a proper water source and water piped to the individual homes, wherein it is metered and paid for.
We may have few mosquito-borne illnesses on the island, but we are not out of the woods. We all have to play our part in ridding communities of mosquito breeding sites. Get more information in this next feature.
Dengue fever is a vector-borne disease carried by the Aedes aegypti mosquito. It is caused by the flavivirus and occurs in either a mild or severe form in tropical and subtropical areas of the world. Globally, 50 to 100 million cases of dengue are seen yearly.
Dengue is endemic to Jamaica, meaning that since its introduction in 1977, we have cases that occur every year. The cases of dengue fever, including severe dengue, can occur at any time throughout the year. An outbreak is declared when the number of cases increase above the usual that is expected for that time of the year.
Dengue is transmitted to humans by the bite of the infected female mosquito. Symptoms typically begin 3 to 14 days after someone gets infected with the virus. Symptoms can last from 2 to 7 days.
The incubation period is usually 4 to 10 days, and illness begins abruptly, and there are essentially 3 phases of the illness. First phase is where you have the fever. The second phase that you can go into is a critical phase, and then you have a recovery phase.
Over 70% of persons who contract the disease usually experience mild symptoms. Persons affected by the mild form of the disease may experience fever of 40 degrees Celsius or higher, headache, muscle pain, and bone and joint pain. Some people may also experience nausea, pain behind the eyes, swollen glands, vomiting, sore throat, rash, and diarrhea.
So you can see that it's a range of symptoms that can present, and therefore, when you initially present with dengue, it may be seen as different illnesses. It may be seen as gastroenteritis, it may be seen as an upper respiratory tract infection, or it can be seen as dengue fever.
To be on the safe side and put speculations aside, persons who start experiencing symptoms are advised to visit their health facility or doctor for medical advice and treatment. If indeed you have dengue, do not self-medicate with treatments that can worsen your illness or cause bleeding. So be sure to have a discussion about dengue with your doctor. The health ministry says doctors who recognize the presence of a fever should also have a high suspicion for dengue and treat with the necessary precautions. For mild cases of dengue, persons may treat themselves at home with specific types of over-the-counter medications, but heed the warning.
Fever and pain to the joints, pain to the muscles, must be treated with only medications that have cetamol, paracetamol, and Panadol. You can also use tepid sponging, fan therapy, and increased fluid to assist with decreasing the fever. Do not use medications that contain aspirin and other non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs such as ibuprofen and diclofenac. You must read your labels carefully. If you are unsure, consult your pharmacist or your doctor before using the medication.
The drugs you should not take while experiencing dengue have been known to cause and/or worsen bleeding and increase the severity of the disease. Besides the mild form of dengue, persons can also experience a more severe form called dengue hemorrhagic fever, which is a rare complication of the illness that can lead to death. Usually the fever that comes with dengue lasts for about 5 days, and it is usually when the fever is going away that persons tend to worsen. Warning signs include persons not eating, experiencing persistent vomiting, lethargy, restlessness, shortness of breath, pain in the abdomen, or tenderness in the abdomen. Persons should also look out for signs of bleeding.
Those signs of bleeding can include bleeding from the gums, bleeding in the urine, it can be bleeding in the stool. Usually though, when you start getting bleeding in the stool, in the urine and stuff, you have reached a severe point.
It is important to note that a case of severe dengue can occur without symptoms of bleeding. Also, in a case of severe dengue, there may be difficulty in maintaining hemodynamics, in which a person's blood pressure tends to drop suddenly and circulation to vital organs is affected.
With dengue, fluid tends to seep from the blood vessels to the outside of the vessels, meaning that there is decreased blood flow to vital organs. And that is why you get the symptoms of lethargy and restlessness and pain in the abdomen. What those signs are signs of decreased perfusion to the brain. It means that enough fluid is not going to the brain because persons are dehydrated. Okay? The dehydration and the signs of dehydration are very important to treat.
Persons are warned to not wait for these signs and instead go to the doctor or hospital early. People with chronic illnesses such as sickle cell are at a greater risk of experiencing severe dengue. These individuals must use precaution when taking their medications.
If you have a chronic illness that you may be taking medications for and you think that there may be some interference with dengue, you must speak to your doctor to decide whether or not you should continue to take these medications.
In order to effectively combat and limit the spread of dengue and other mosquito-transmitted illnesses, persons must eliminate mosquito breeding sites in their surroundings. Breeding sites include old tires, laundry tanks, dish drainers, covered tanks or cisterns, drums and barrels, discarded buckets and containers. Other sources are pet dishes, construction blocks, bottles, discarded tin cans, tree holes and bamboo, bottle pieces on top of walls, old shoes and flower pots. Mosquitoes can also breed in discarded toys, roof guttering, bromeliad plants, garden containers and tools, brick holes and unmaintained wading or swimming pools. Where water is stored for use, the containers must be properly covered and sealed against mosquito entry. The use of mosquito repellents containing DEET and long-sleeved clothing are also recommended for personal protection. For more information, please contact the Ministry of Health, 10 to 16 Grenada Way, Kingston 5. Call them at 876-633-8172, 876-633-7771. Information is on the web at moh.gov.jm and contact can be made by email pr@moh.gov.jm or on social media.
Get the facts on one of the leading causes of deaths among females next.
Globally, cervical cancer is the second most common type of cancer in women, with over 85% occurring in developing countries. Every year, 528,000 new cases are diagnosed, and there are approximately 270,000 deaths. By 2050, without any intervention, the number of diagnosed cases of cervical cancer is expected to increase to 1 million per year, with approximately 90% of the deaths occurring in developing countries like ours. A major factor is the human papilloma virus, HPV, of which there are approximately 200 types that infect epithelia, or skin tissue. At least 14 types of the human papilloma virus have been found to cause cancer of the cervix. Types 16 and 18 are responsible for 70% of cancers of the cervix, which is the second leading cause of cancer-related deaths in Jamaica. The virus can be transmitted through skin-to-skin contact, from mother to child at birth.
Current estimates indicate that every year, just under 400 women are diagnosed with this disease, with approximately 185 dying from the disease, with the majority of deaths occurring in women between the ages of 40 and 64 years of age.
A prevalence study conducted in Jamaica in 2010 revealed that the overall prevalence of any type of HPV infection was 54%. Cancer-causing HPV types were detected in 34.9% of the women, and HPV types 16 and 18 were found in 10.5% of the general population and in 71% of women with abnormal pap smears. This reality has prompted the Jamaican government to take the initiative to prevent cervical cancer through the introduction of the bivalent human papilloma virus HPV vaccine.
The World Health Organization, WHO, recommends that HPV vaccines be included in national immunization programs as a core strategy for primary prevention against cervical cancer. WHO states, Mr. Speaker, that HPV vaccination for girls ages 9 to 14 years is the most cost-effective public health measure against this disease.
More than 70 countries around the world, including more than 20 countries in Latin America and the Caribbean, have already introduced the vaccine. Several studies and monitoring by the World Health Organization, WHO Global Advisory Committee on Vaccine Safety, proved that HPV vaccination is safe and works extremely well, decreasing the number of HPV infections and related precancers. The bivalent HPV vaccine, introduced by the Ministry of Health in schools at grade 7 to girls ages 9 to 14, provides for 90 to 100% protection against HPV types 16 and 18. The vaccine is offered free of cost.
Bear in mind too, by the way, the cost to administer one of these vaccines, for us, the cost is somewhere in the region of $7-8 US. If you go into the private sector, you're looking at anywhere from $11,000 to $15,000. So it's not inexpensive.
This vaccine is not mandatory, and beneficiaries received opt-out forms for parents and guardians to give or refuse permission for their girl child to receive the vaccine.
We can take it that the indication, if anything, is that they want this. They identify with this. I remember one girl indicated that her mother actually called her aunt, who is a nurse, for advice. So that spells good. It says that persons are prepared to consult, get information, and then make informed decisions. And so that is going well.
Approximately 22,500 girls were targeted for the vaccine's introduction in 2017, with each girl needing 2 doses given 6 months apart for full protection.
Generally speaking, the process has gone smoothly.
The school-based strategy for implementation seeks to facilitate greater access to the targeted population. This covers the cost for social mobilization and communication, cold chain equipment, training and sensitization, and procurement of vaccine and vaccination supplies. And this disease prevention strategy will save the government millions. The Ministry of Health estimated that annual cost for the program after introduction will be 73.3 million Jamaican dollars.
In Jamaica, the estimated cost is of the just under 400 cases annually, Mr. Speaker, is some $274 million. I should point out that this figure is only for radiotherapy and does not include diagnosis and chemotherapy.
And for the individual, not just the emotional and physical trauma caused by this cancer is removed, but the financial burden.
In the United States, cost on diagnosis is approximately some 15,000, just under 16,000 US dollars. If the patient survives for a year, this goes up to approximately 30,000 US dollars.
Despite vaccination, persons will still need to do their routine pap smear to check for any threat or signs of the cancer, as the key to effective treatment, if it should occur, is early detection. For more information or to have your concerns answered, you can call the Ministry of Health's toll-free line 1-888-1-LOVE or 1-888-663-5683. Also email hpvinfo@moh.gov.jm. You can also visit the website moh.gov.jm as well as social media channels.
And that's where we take our leave, but only for today. We return tomorrow around about the same time right here on this station. We are available at your leisure online. Visit jis.gov.jm. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, download our mobile app, and be sure to check out our pages on social media. On behalf of the entire team here at the JIS, I'm Adrian Atkinson. Thank you for watching.
This has been a production of the Jamaica Information Service, the voice of Jamaica.